Hi, so this week I've come here to meet a man with a van for a plan and taken my first ferry since I got here in Denmark to try and see, can I replace some of the features of the IONIQ Electric I used to have in the UK with an e-bike, with a specific kind of cargo e-bike that enables me to do some of the things I want to do in terms of transport, mobility, shopping, moving my family around without having to buy a car, even if it's an electric car, which is better for the environment. So let's find out how this goes in this video. So first I want to say, yes, there is electric car stuff coming on my electric car channel. This weekend my family are arriving and I have a bit of a special surprise planned for them. So there'll be an electric car video for that. I'm just enjoying this period of being somewhere different and thinking that I might be able to do things differently. So this whole kind of e-bike thing is related to that, is related to being able to see things a bit more, a bit new, a bit fresher. And particularly these kind of e-cargo bikes, they feel a bit more vehicle-esque, I think, than your kind of typical kind of bicycle, even your typical kind of electric bicycle. So this was the plan. Anyway, I'm heading over to Sjaellands, which is the big island that Copenhagen, the capital, is on. And the plan here is, yes, there's Copenhagen on the map. So the plan is here to depart from the port of Aarhus, in the Bay of Aarhus, and go across to what I would typically pronounce as Odde, but I believe it's called Ålen, and to Sjaellands Odde. So I started my day having some nice, overpriced, but very nice and very fashionable vegan porridge, and getting a reminder there on the street of just how ubiquitous bicycles are in downtown Aarhus, in the summer at least. We'll see what it turns out to be in the winter, of course. And yeah, I think there were strawberries in this. It was delicious, but I think there were strawberries, and that's triggered eczema, and that in combination with the fact that it turned out to be a lot sunnier than I expected it to be, judging from the weather at the start of the day here, walking to the ferry port, where I thought it was going to be quite misty, and I even had my raincoat with me. It turned out to be very sunny. I'm sunburnt. I look like a beetroot, so I'm going to narrate the rest of the video. I hope that's okay. Yeah, so it's a bit of a misty morning. Interesting to see there's like an express, an inverted commas express coach, cheaper coach to Copenhagen from Aarhus port. And yeah, loads and loads of cars getting on, and really interesting to see how this kind of, I went the wrong way, and the ticket people did direct me to walk down the car thing. I'm not walking where I wasn't allowed to be. They said to walk here. And yeah, look, more electric car stuff. So there were clever branded electric car chargers here. One rapid charger, I presume, can only charge one car at once, so not great, but I guess a good last resort if you're charging up before getting on the ferry, or you need to charge as soon as you get off the ferry. At least there's a facility there, although it's subscription based, I think. Then it was a kind of, walk towards the light. That was my route there. All the cars and the motorbikes were going up the ramps, but I was going through this walkway area and then up the steps onto the ferry. Now, I haven't been on a ferry in Denmark before. I've been on others around the world. It was really, really busy. This is just as people were still getting on. Basically, all these seats filled up, and there were people standing and people eating and people shopping and so on. And of course, you're talking about a kind of vehicle the size of an apartment block here. Here you can see the kind of photo of it on, yes, they seem to use Windows to get the safety videos and other things going. And the amount of power here to push this thing through the kind of early morning mist leaving the Bay of Aarhus, I can barely even think about just how much power those motors must be generating on the ferry, and just to run all the other auxiliary systems and so on the ship. And yeah, I guess sort of car alarms are a bit of a norm. When the ferry starts moving, some cars don't realize that that's not being stolen. That's just the kind of motion of this. I found the wake here quite mesmerizing, the way the spray was blasting off, and so did lots of other people. There were loads of people kind of out on the deck, just looking at the sea and so on. Kind of very calm, a very, very stable journey. The seas was very calm, and I think the design of this boat is quite good. The weather, as we got close to Sjaellands Odde, just improved enormously. I think there's a trail of pollution here from the ferry. You can see that sort of faint black streak in the sky. So not great. I mean, I know that Bjørn Nilund in Norway has been looking at the rollout of electric ferries there. I think there is one electric ferry apparently in service in Denmark. I'd like to go and try it. Just for the kind of weight and number of people and size and scale of essentially moving around like a kind of, a sort of city apartment block on the water here. These services, these kind of forms of transport will have to switch over to electric. I don't even want to think about how they're kind of fueled, how they're running them, and the kind of, the carbon footprint of that. Even though there's a lot of passengers, I mean, per passenger, I don't know. But yeah, I'm sure they're thinking about it. I'm sure they're working on it. But, the rollout of electric ferries has to accelerate enormously. This is kind of a great way of getting around, very nice way of traveling for someone who's spent most of the last few years in a car, on roads, and then very recently a tiny bit of cycling. Yeah. So anyway, Nigel from the Go Bike service had told me that he was parked in the car park of the ferry port. Very easy to spot him in his big van. So here he is. He didn't want to be interviewed on camera, which is a shame because he's a fascinating, very, very interesting chap. But yeah, we go through the whole thing of he brought out the bike. I should say that the Go Bike service is brand neutral. So even though I was the one who asked to see kind of Rad Power Bike, so this is this brand, I think are headquartered in Seattle. They have a European base in the Netherlands. But it was me that requested that specific bike. Nigel and the Go Bike service, they're brand neutral. They work with lots of different companies. They're a kind of business to business and then a business to customer service, I believe, where they do a kind of premium service of, they're basically a big bike shop on wheels, so they can do everything a traditional bike shop can do, but they're mobile. A bit like Tesla's mobile Tesla Ranger service, but for bicycles, really. Nigel is very adept with the bikes, very adept with the kind of repairs and so on. This is a fully spec'd out van, and they can assemble e-bikes that don't come fully assembled. To save you that, there's a small fee for that. They can deliver it. And they do mountain bikes as well. I think Nigel is very into mountain biking. He was telling me this is a kind of titanium framed bike, possibly a British built one here. But, the ability to do all sorts of things in this kind of mobile bike van. And it means, you don't have to go to a particular bike shop. You can just have them come to you. Nigel and the Go Bike service are working with big brands, basically trying to lower the carbon footprint, I think, of all these kind of services that are working in cities like Copenhagen, other parts around the world, where essentially they can do what they need to do through these kind of bikes instead of running cars around already congested, polluted city streets. So you've got these kind of high load capacity and, high performance and very, user-friendly kind of e-bikes, cargo e-bikes, all sorts of different variants of it, not just the Rad Power one. Going around city centres instead of, and being serviced by mobile services instead of a lot of cars and a lot of kind of, high overhead bike shops. So yeah, very impressive van, and Nigel was great to talk to. Great to see this service, and there's lots of little things happening like this around the world with this kind of mobility as a service, and I guess then servicing the mobility as a service concept to make sure that things keep running. And yeah, great. I mean, I used to work in laboratories, so it was great to see all the equipment. Now, compare this to basically, this is a traditional bike shop. Now, we're flipping back to ours for a moment. And this specialized brand I've been looking at, they got the battery of the e-bike integrated into the frame. Very elegant, very expensive. Don't know the performance of them yet, haven't tried them, but this is the kind of traditional domain I've been looking at before looking at this kind of e-bikes. And I've kind of come across this because this is me zooming up one of the hills towards where I work in Aarhus from the bus. And I was looking out here for the guy who was riding the specialized high-performance e-bike, and he'd already gone. He'd left the traffic lights, and he was well ahead of all these people who cycled manually up the hill. I couldn't even find him until I think he was way up at a kind of traffic junction way up the hill. So the e-bikes have a real benefit there. So here's Nigel explaining to me basically the different levels of assist. I think there's 3 levels of assist on this Rad Power bike, maybe even 5 levels of assist by the look of it there. And then 0, which is completely off, so you're just pedaling it. And I did actually try that and used it on just the normal gears. So there's gears on the center crank and then on the rear hub. And it was possible to move it. I think it's about a kind of 30 plus kilogram bike. Apologies, I don't know the specs in full. I'm going to look into it more. But it is possible to move the bike without the kind of e-assist if your battery runs out, if there's some other problem. And there's this walk mode here. So Nigel is demonstrating there that it's got a balancing wire to keep the wheel straight if it's loaded for stability. And here he's kind of doing a kind of walk assist. So you press a button, I think it's down on the controls, and you can actually walk the bike with a little bit of electric assist. So up a hill or into an apartment block, or if you've got some sort of a flat or some sort of other breakdown. So that's very useful because otherwise it is it's a heavy bike to carry on your own, and you don't necessarily want to be pushing it without an assist. He's also explaining here this is one of the variants that's under the classification that has a throttle assist. So I think it does up to 750 watts. So 750 watts on a bike that's 30 kilograms is pretty cool, actually. And when I start riding it, in a moment you'll see that. So Nigel's explained to me how the kind of the seat stock works and adjusting it for height, and he shows me how the stand works in a minute. It's a very robust center dual prong kind of stand. It really feels like moving a bicycle, and not like a kind of rickety one like those child transporting cargo e-bikes I tried in an Aarhus bike shop a few weeks back. There's a kind of box on the front that you can put kids in, and there's maybe a tarp or a plastic cover over it. This one felt more stable, more like a kind of vehicle, but more like a controllable vehicle that had some heft to it and some power to it, and was quite a lot of fun to ride. Now, the weird thing with bicycles, and I guess it's the same with cars unless you speed up the footage, it always feels more fun being on it than actually watching it. So you'll see in a minute I look utterly ridiculous because I'm overdressed for the weather and overdressed for the task of going to try a bike. I'm in a shirt and work trousers, And yeah, perhaps I should do all of my things in a three-piece suit with a top hat because I look extremely silly. Nigel is far more appropriately specced out for testing out and riding out of bikes. He's explained to me here the different ways of kind of starting it off, so you can have a little throttle assist to start it off to give you a bit of momentum to go. I didn't get that working, so I just kind of do a kind of wobbly start off here, but the bike itself is very well centered, very stable. These are not kind of like high performance e-bikes, so here I go, yeah, watch. Yeah, sweaty back, lovely. Yeah, so even without any kind of assist, bit of a wobble there because I'm probably sat a bit too high for my comfort level.
Oh yeah. Oh goodness me, yeah.
My helmet looks a bit silly, but it is safe because I've got the GoPro mounted under it, so I can give the point of view footage here. And yeah, I'm just kind of realizing here, like, wow, the level of assist, even on assist level 1, is quite strong. By assist level 2, yeah, it doesn't look like I'm going that fast, but, you know, considering this is a 30-kilogram bike, I'm kind of going along, and I'm taking it easy here because there's people around. As we sort of proceed through the video, I'm testing out level 2, level 3. Level 2 was really kind of moving along without any throttle, just pedal assist. And then level 3, you know, on flat ground was like too much, really. I was having to sort of hold it back a bit. What I liked about it was Nigel was telling me, you know, use both brakes. So in Denmark, the one on the right brake is actually the rear brake. And yeah, so he said, you know, for stability, pull both brakes, and it really has got some stopping power. Of course, these are disc brakes, so they can stop the weight, but also stop the weight at speed. So yeah, here I'm trying up the kind of level 2.
Okay, so let's take it up to 2. Whoa. Oh yeah, goodness me.
Yeah, so I find it quite impressive, and it doesn't take long before you're up to a decent speed without too much effort, and then it's kind of aerodynamics, I guess, and whatever limits are placed on the kind of motor and the ride that are slowing you down. But bear in mind, this is not like driving a car. I'm not trying to say for any minute this replaces an electric car. I still love electric cars. I'm still thinking about getting one. But in terms of getting around, you know, in a bit more of a freer, less polluting way, just from day to day to take me and my son maybe to his kindergarten, this kind of thing is cool. I don't know how people receive it at all on an electric car channel, but, you know, it's really cool.
Yeah, that is very impressive. Very stable. Very sort of confidence inspiring.
Yeah. It feels very, it feels very natural to ride.
Yeah, it does. I wasn't sure because of the...
It's really relaxed riding position.
Yeah. Because of the size of it and because of, you know, being a bit unsure about how exactly the assistance is working, I was a bit cautious. But it's I mean, I took it up to 3 just as I got down there, and then came round and gave it some... So does it kind of detect the force of your feet or something to measure
there's a torque sensor in it.
Ah, okay, okay.
The pedals.
Yeah.
And the more you give, the more you get.
Yeah. Well, that was fun, so I'll do one more loop if that's okay. I should watch out for other road users, I guess. Oh, yeah, whoa.
You can see, again, it doesn't come across that fast on film. I think, you know, most Hollywood films and things, they probably speed everything up to make it look more exciting, so we're kind of used to seeing a faster representation of speed. But this was a fair old nip. It was going quite well. Of course, I'm in a very safe area here, this kind of private land, car park. This was really fun, and it was actually quite stable, leaning into the corners. My dad, if he watches this, probably laughing because he rides quite powerful motorbikes. He hasn't tried e-motorbikes yet, I don't think, but it's taken along here. It's nice, it's fun. And of course, it's got the versatility, which I showed at the start of the video, to carry all sorts of things. So, you know, different numbers of passengers. I don't know how many are legal. I'm going to check that in Denmark, in Europe. But, you know, pannier bags, all sorts of things you can bolt on. It can do proper cargo deliveries for companies and so on. But, you know, it actually felt certainly more than the Swapfits bike that I've been riding. Just the manual kind of 7-speed, heavy, quite uncomfortable, just normal manual pedal bike. This one felt like something a bit special. Of course, it's got a readout. It's not super sophisticated, but it does have a readout. It's got 2 sets of gearing. It's got the throttle and so on. Yeah, a lot of fun. So Nigel was explaining to me here that I hadn't used the throttle. I thought I had, or thought I was getting some sort of assist, but then I'm going to give it a go here now.
Yeah, just hold that in and then...
So yeah, typical Duncan having to be explained about 5 times how to get anything to work.
Oh yeah, I can feel it, yeah. Yeah.
So I'm activating the throttle assist.
Okay, let's try the... Oh yeah.
With the throttle assist, it had some serious power, and all of a sudden I could see the numbers on the little sort of liquid crystal display zipping up above 700 watts. So that was really cool.
Yeah. Okay.
by this point, thanks to Nigel's kind of patient guidance, I was using both brakes.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Yeah, I definitely wasn't using the throttle before.
No,
That was noticeably...
Got like
yeah.
power.
But even with the so I had it on assistance level 3 as I was turning, and then I gave it some oomph to get it going, and you can really feel the assistance. But the throttle is, that's quite something else,
Yeah, so there I go. I think this was going off then. I'd taken the camera off my head by this point to sort of have a bit more of a relaxed ride and look where I was going, rather than constantly trying to look down to show various bits and pieces for filming. And again, I haven't sped up the footage here, and it looks like I'm just pootling along, but I'm actually it's a fair distance that I'm covering very quickly, and the bike is good. It feels good. It feels like something, and I kind of like these Rad Power bikes because they're not sort of over the top. They're not fancy for the sake of being fancy. All the components have been optimized for cost, but reliability and so on. And yeah, cool. I got no affiliation with Rad Power bikes. I don't particularly, have any brand loyalty to them, but fun. So yeah, I then wandered off to have a bit of a look at the island because I'd left a bit of time for my return ferry. So just beautiful Danish scenery here, amazing trees. My family are going to kind of love all the trees here, and went for a bit of a walk to try and find the sea, to try and find some beaches. So we're going to see some footage of that now. And I guess this is the kind of pace, so this is how it feels like I'm walking here. This is a hyperlapse sped up. This is what it would be like to be doing it on the kind of the cargo e-bike, or any e-bike capable of doing that kind of speed. And you could see, speeding up my typical kind of walking pace. I've been walking everywhere since I got here in Denmark, to this kind of thing. It's not a car, but it's pretty good actually. And the interesting thing, so why am I interested in e-bikes? Why have I suddenly gone from driving this amazing, world's most aerodynamic, world's most efficient production car, the IONIQ Electric, to suddenly waffling about e-bikes? And I'll come back to electric vehicles next week, as I say. Well, I don't know the exact interrelationship between electric car development and how they're evolving, and electric bicycles and how they're evolving. I imagine they're both being enabled by good capacity and longevity batteries, lithium-ion batteries becoming available at affordable prices. Common developments in motors, in efficient electric motors for all sorts of different applications, and how that's kind of then sort of flowing off and seeding all sorts of different innovations in different areas around transport. And again, I'd love to see one of these biohybrids that Robert Llewellyn from Fully Charged has ridden. But for now, I'm kind of going with the bikes that are available, and another lovely form of relaxing transport there. But I think the two things are interrelated, is what I'm long sort of hand waffling trying to say. I think that, I wouldn't be interested in bicycles at all unless I'd driven an electric car, and unless there were electrified bicycles to make it a bit more interesting, a bit more efficient and quicker to get around, and more versatility. And I think electric bikes wouldn't exist without the kinds of developments that are underpinning the evolution of electric cars. So again, apologies if it's usually the car sort of stuff you watch on this and you're wondering why on earth is Duncan spending so much time talking about bikes lately. Firstly, I've moved to Denmark, where bikes are a much, much, much bigger thing and more feasible mode of transport than they are in the UK. And secondly, I'm just using a kind of milestone in life of moving to a different country to kind of question my assumptions and think about what I could and should be doing. So then I went and had some very definitely non-vegan food at this lovely kind of roadside cafe near the ferry port. Then, I always seem to be doing stuff other people are not doing. I was talking about EV YouTubers as risk takers recently. I don't know if I'm just like a fool, or whether, I'm the only person walking back to the ferry port. So you can see here, I'm kind of walking down the shared cycle and pedestrian lane back to the ferry, and there's no one else doing that at all. Everyone else is driving or is on the coach, or there was one cyclist behind me there. Yeah, so then the cars were reloading onto the return ferry. I saw one Nissan Leaf, I think. It's really interesting how I think I'm not sure about the percentage numbers, I'll have to look into this, but the UK seems to be ahead of Denmark in terms of electric car adoption, the rate of adoption. There's a few around in Aarhus. I've seen a few in Copenhagen when I've been there, but they're not a big thing. My parents were actually asking about this. They're not a big thing. It's not like Norway at all. So don't get Norway and Sweden and Denmark and Finland and the other countries in this region confused. Norway is the one where you see almost every other car you see, certainly in Oslo, is an electric car. Denmark, there's still quite a rarity, and the infrastructure is quite sparse and so on. So again, I think that's partly why I'm thinking about e-bikes as a kind of intermediate kind of transport option in between walking and public transport and cars. Because it is possible here, at least in summer. We'll see how it goes with the turn of the seasons of the year. Yeah, but they're not everywhere, and it's not as easy as it would have been in Norway. But then again, I didn't have the job offer in Norway. So yeah, and this is a reminder that in downtown Aarhus, they do actually maintain the cycle path. So there's very good cycle infrastructure, and they keep it maintained and so on. And yeah, this whole video was a nice break. People are asking about my family and so on. This is kind of my typical evenings have been the last few weeks. These unfurnished Danish rentals, and yeah, so I've been putting things together and assembling whole pieces of furniture. This is getting the beds ready for my family arriving, which, as I say, is next week. Finally, we've managed to sort that out, and I've become a bit of a pro with the IKEA stuff, which is pretty much the only affordable furniture here on my kind of salary. And yeah, voila, bed. My thanks to Nigel from the Go Bike service for coming out to meet me here at the Ferry port. Really impressed by the e-bike. It feels much more like a vehicle than a bicycle than I thought, so I think there's something to the kind of riding dynamics of it that I'm really going to enjoy. Really like this idea of the kind of mobile service. Very interesting to see where that goes. And happy that I can get probably some kind of bicycle that feels something a bit special, but at the same time it's kind of been optimized for cost and so on. Not saying that I'm not going to get an electric car, but this for now will be a good stopgap, I think. And it's kind of customizable, and it's the kind of vehicle you think, a bit like the IONIQ Electric really, that you get it and you're kind of just going to discover more about it as you use it, which I think is really cool. So yeah, so thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you'd like to. And yeah, bye for now. I'll go out to the shot so you can see some more of the scenery. Bye for now.